Hi and welcome to this little tutorial on editing portraits in Lightroom. It's just a quick ideas session just to give you a couple of minutes on how to take something like this into something a bit more commercial and interesting. So if you've got the latest version of Lightroom, you'll see you've got the profile thing here. If you click on that, this will give you lots of really nice start points. So we have vintage ones here. If you hover over them, it shows you all the different looks they can give you. I've got more modern ones above. I'll tell you what, I'll just hide this bottom area there so we've got a bit more room up top. Here we go. So that's the vintage ones and the modern ones. So what these are doing, it's like grading in film. It just subtly changes how the colours work with the picture. So it'll turn, I mean, this one turns everything a little bit magenta. This one turns everything a little bit warmer. So it's clever stuff and they're really quick to use. So we've got the artistic ones at the top. I'm going to have a look through these and just find one, because it's quite a dark background and a light foreground, so you might want one that lifts the background up. See this one, you can actually see the detail there, and if you look at the histogram, it's brought the shadows up and the highlights down a bit. So let's go with that. Let's have a quick go with the slider at the top, so you can see if you go too far it goes very sort of magenta, and if you go back there it's fairly normal. So somewhere in the middle, maybe a bit quite like that sort of look. Okay. Now there's a bit of glow on Andy's head, so you tend to control the very bright bits with the highlight slider first. Let's have a quick look. Somewhere like that. We're going to brighten the whole thing up in a sec, the whole face. Now you can maybe bring the whites up. No, that's not really worked. But what I will show you, remember we always say skin is at +1 on the meter. So if we use our tone curve tool, this is a bit of a tip, put it on a bit of skin, maybe just top of his bridge of his nose there. What we can then do is using this little tool here, the direct adjustment tool. You click on the nose and then drag the curve up. You can see it's going up there. And what we've done, because I know that skin should be at +1, I've dragged a known bit of skin and I've pulled the curve up until that's at +1. So 0 is across the middle, and I've dragged 0 up to +1. So from wherever I picked it up, and now Andy's face is correctly exposed. Other things you can now do, we can do the faded vintage look if we remove contrast, or we can make it punchier if we add contrast. So that's one of the first decisions to do. Now if you go for the faded vintage look, it goes well with positive clarity. So clarity, you would tend to do a negative value for women, as it's nice and flattering. And men, a positive one, because it just adds a bit of grit and gravel to them, so it makes them look a bit more intense. There's a dehaze slider which most people wouldn't use. You'd never go negative with it because it just gets this, well, maybe you like that sort of look, I don't know, but I would never really go negative. But you can just add more punch to the shot by just adding a little bit of dehaze. So that's 22, it's not a lot. Back to 0 and then up to 22. So that's quite powerful. Working our way down, you can add split toning to these things. I mean, but if you've done a profile, you probably don't need to do this because that's already set it up. But if you wanted to just cool the shadows down a little bit, you click on the shadows here on the little box there, and then you can add whatever colour of the rainbow you want. But blue tends to be quite cool in the shadows, or teal, which is what you see in sci-fi films. They seem to have like a greeny blue. So if we leave that there, you can do the same with highlights if you wanted to, but I'm going to leave that. Detail, well, it's just like any photo, you can add sharpening, I've been shooting in the natural light portrait sessions. We've been doing quite a lot of high ISO. This is at 4000, so you might want to just add a little bit of noise reduction if you want to get rid of this grain, but it's not too bad, this camera. If you want to get rid, I always do the lens corrections, just these two, simply because of for free. If you really want to get the arch in the background vertical, you can click on the crop tool, click on the angle, and just draw down the vertical line like so. I don't think it really adds a lot to it, and actually it's not quite got it vertical, so if you want to stop doing that, you just press escape and it goes back to where it was. I actually prefer the sort of slightly jaunty angle. Yeah, there we go. And where did we get to? Vignettes are always quite cool. You can just darken those edges a little bit. So that's really just working our way down from the profile all the way through these various sliders. And it really does make a massive difference. Let's have a shot, almost like a similar sort of shot, and then with a bit of TLC. And if you get to the end, you don't like that look, remember you can always go back to these things, the profiles, and have a quick flick through. If you want a cooler one, you can do that. So everything's changeable. If you fancy a black and white version, there's black and white profiles somewhere. There we go. Remember we added a bit of blue, so it's going to still retain that. Actually, these are really good. Quite like that one. So there you go. Play. Don't spend too much time when initially doing it. Just go with your gut feeling. If you think it looks cool, create virtual copies as you go. If you're a bit stuck, you need to create a virtual copy, just right click on the thumbnail, create virtual copy, and it just literally copies the same file again, and then you can then try a different version, create a virtual copy, and then maybe let's try that one. It's got these 3 versions to look at, and they don't take up much disk space. It's not making an actual copy, it's just settings. So there you go. Have a bit of fun with your pictures, and don't forget to put them on the McFade Summer and Winter Evenings site on Facebook, and we can all have a look. Thanks for watching. Cheers.